I would like to think the main difference between the characters that we created at Marvel and the ones that had been in existence before that, the other ones were a little bit one-dimensional. You didn't know anything about them except what their power was, and you knew who the villain was, and you saw them fight the villain. I tried to make our characters so that their personal lives were just as interesting as their adventure.
Stan brought a whole different approach to superheroes, and it broke up the boring fight scenes that sometimes you could have 10 pages of fight scenes in some superhero comics, and thus making them boring. But he broke them up with personal life. All of those things added to the dimension. With the Fantastic Four, the fact that he gave them conflicting personalities and having them constantly bickering amongst themselves, and then a romance between two of the characters. That's strictly Stan Lee.
Spider-Man does whatever a spider can. Spins a web any size, catches thieves just like flies. Look out, here comes the Spider-Man. Is he strong? Listen, bud, he's got radioactive blood. Can he swing from a thread? Take a look overhead. Hey there goes the Spider-Man. In the chill of night, at the scene of a crime, like a streak of light, he arrives just in time. Spider-Man, Spider-Man, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Wealth and fame, he's ignored. Action is his reward to him. Life is a great big hang-up. Wherever there's a hang-up, you'll find the Spider-Man.
I think Spider-Man probably turned out to be the most realistic of all our characters. First of all, as far as I know, there had never been a teenage superhero before. Teenagers had always been sidekicks for a hero. But here I wanted the teenager to really be the hero. And since he was a teenager, I tried to give him all the problems that most teenagers have. He worried about making a living, worried about his family, he worried about getting dates with girls.
Spider-Man is probably the least boisterous of the mainstream superheroes. He's not an invulnerable Superman. He's not a dark Batman-like figure. He seems a more or less normal, anxiety-ridden fellow who could use a girlfriend. Spider-Man clearly needs female companionship. He's raised by his Aunt May. He has this sort of self-doubts and sort of needs comforting because of his existential anxieties in a way that the other superheroes don't. They are so super, it's difficult to relate humanly to them.
What Stan Lee did was that he came in and he created characters that, although they had these superhuman powers, they were very much like you or me or anyone else. We all have Achilles' heels. We all have problems that we're either trying to resolve in our lives or trying to run away from in our lives. And that's what Stan did. That was the beauty of the Marvel Universe when it started, was characters with feet of clay. There was always, although they were these godlike creatures with the costumes, there was always something else going on behind the mask.
I just realized that I don't know much about you. How did you and Murdoch first join forces?
It's unfortunate that we masked men must hide so much from the world. But there is one thing you do need to know. Behind this mask is the face of a friend and a lifelong partner in your war against Kingpin.
Thanks. Goodbye, Daredevil. And don't worry, I'm going to fight the Kingpin to the bitter end. So help me.
Stan generally imposes on artists to use their ability to tell a story and then utilizes it so it saves him time. One of the best things that he ever stumbled on was the plot instead of a script. So he gave people a plot, which made people like myself and John Buscema and Gene Colan exercise our ability to tell a story. He was always enthusiastic, looked at your pages, paid attention, and generally the feedback was very, very positive. He asked us to clothe the people in current styles and to have the young men dress the way young men dress when they go to school and to go to work. He said the worst thing you can do is to make it look like a comic book that was done 10 years earlier. So we were always aware to stay modern. We were reflecting the current time. So when the social content in the 60s was decided on, it was not accidental. It was Stan asking us to reflect daily life. And when Vietnam became a problem, we did campus problems, radical students. We did a lot of very interesting things. Stan just felt that it was vital to make it current.
There was one time, I just remember, I received a letter from Washington, D.C., from the Office of Health, Education, and Welfare. And they said because of the big problem with drugs in the country, they would appreciate it if I could do some sort of story in the Spider-Man book to mention to the readers the dangers of drug addiction. So I don't ever like to lecture, but I had a little sequence in the story, a little part where a friend of Spider-Man's had taken to, I don't know much about drugs myself. He took something and it made him think he was a bird and he could fly. And he was up on top of the roof and Spider-Man tried to talk him down. And that was it. Well, when we sent that book to the Code, they sent it back and said, you can't print that. I said, why? They said, you're not allowed to use drugs in your stories. I said, but this is a story that is anti-drug. It's to teach youngsters that taking drugs is dangerous. No, we're sorry, you can't do it. But I was asked to do it by a branch of the United States government. We're sorry, you can't do it. So I figured the hell with it, and I printed the books anyway, and I didn't put the Code seal on the cover. So he did not say approved by the comic book code or whatever it said.
When we did drugs, we did not make it a documentary on drugs. We made it a human drama with how drugs can affect a character. And we did it as we always did. We put the pill inside some honey and made it entertaining first and the message second.
Most of the superheroes created by Stan Lee are still amazingly popular today. They are published in close to 75 countries and translated into 25 languages and are much loved. Marvel Comics was responsible for a major innovation. It gave its supervillains superpowers. Until then, the heroes' enemies were usually mad scientists, gangsters, robots, or monsters from outer space. The Marvel villain was super powerful, a perfect foil for the hero, his evil twin. Evil was accepted as the necessary counterpart of good.
Good thing I made your shackles out of indestructible titanium too, eh? Justice will be served, and all of you will suffer for your crimes against Norman Osborn. justice is blind no longer!
All you megalomaniacs have such a weird sense of humor.
The supervillain is almost identical in a lot of respects to the hero.
Last! Looks like a mistrial. This court is adjourned!
They've taken similar paths in life.